Welcome, YouTubers, to another episode in my Grammar Hero series. In today's video, I'm going to be working out some very basic problems from a mathematics knowledge subtest of the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. That is the ASVAB. As I recommend in most of my practice test videos, I encourage you to try to work out these problems on your own scratch paper at home. In order to do so, I'd say after I get done reading a problem, pause the video, see if you can work it out on your own, and then resume the video to see if you and I came up with the same answer. Similarly, I also want to mention that on the ASVAB, you're not allowed to use a calculator or a formula sheet. So as you work on these problems at home, do not use any of those resources. All that said, let's go ahead and get started with number one. Number one is read as 10 factorial over 7 factorial. Again, the exclamation point in mathematics is called a factorial. And so what a factorial means is you simply take a number, let's say we had 5 factorial, and you multiply it by all the digits or integers below 5. So that would be 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. As you can see, 5 factorial means you just multiply 5 by everything that's less than 5. Similarly, 8 factorial would be everything multiplied below 8 together. So that would be 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. As you can see, that's a lot of work. Thankfully enough, it's pretty easy to simplify these factorials, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So let's go ahead and write number one over here. Again, this is 10 factorial over 7 factorial. And let's go ahead and write this out. It's going to be 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Good, we had enough space. And that's all over 7 factorial, which is 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay, so that's how you write out factorials. That said, as I mentioned, doing this math, that is 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 and so on all the way to 1, would be a tremendous waste of time. In light of that, you have to recognize that just like simplifying corresponding zeros, you can cross out everything from 7 factorial down in both the numerator as well as the denominator, which will just leave you with 10 times 9 times 8, which most of you can do it in your head, but let's take it one step at a time. 10 times 9, we should know is 90, which leaves us with 90 times 8. And let's think about what we have here. We have 90 times 8. Well, I know 9 times 8 is 72. And if I just tack on that extra 0, we'll see that 90 times 8 is 720. Now, if you needed to, you could have done this. 90 times 8. You would have done 0 times 8 is 0. 9 times 8 is 72. If you're comfortable with mental math, that's a good thing. The more you practice these problems, the more comfortable you should get skipping a few steps here and there. Okay, so this one, of course, is going to be D, 720. All right, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 says 6 to the 4th over 6 to the 3rd times 6 squared. So in this case, we're dealing with exponents. And let me go ahead and write number 2 over here. We have 6 to the 4th over 6 to the 3rd times 6 squared. And in case you're not familiar with exponents, an exponent just means that's how many times you multiply that number by itself. So 6 to the, let's not use third, that would give us a bad number. 6 squared would be the same as 6 times 6. 6 to the 4th would be 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. Okay? So in light of that, that's what we know we have going on here. That said, this question is a test of your knowledge of the laws of exponents. The first of which being the multiplication rules for the laws of exponents, and that's pretty simple. A, and the first one we're going to talk about is a to the m times a to the n. When you have this scenario with exponents, and let me move over here, when you have a to the m times a to the n, you simply add those exponents, so this becomes a to the m plus n. And as you can see, that's what we have in this denominator. And let me write that over here. We have 6 to the third times 6 squared, which, as we can tell from this law of exponents, becomes 6 to the third, or 6, 3 plus 2, which equals 6 to the fifth. Okay? So let's go ahead and write 6 to the fifth in place of this denominator. So we have 6 to the fourth over 6 to the fifth. Another exponent, rule of exponent with which we need to be familiar is in regard to division. When you divide exponents, that is, you have a to the m over a to the n, you simply subtract your exponent. So that becomes a to the m minus n. And as you can see, we have exactly that right here. We have 6 to the fourth over 6 to the fifth. So let me write that over here so it's easier to comprehend. We have 6 to the fourth over 6 to the fifth, so that's going to be 6, 4 minus 5, which is the same as 6 to the negative 1. Now you cannot write 6 to the negative 1 as your answer. You simply have to move. This negative prompts you to bring this 6 down into the denominator, so that's going to be 1 over 6, and you can regard that 1 right there. So that's going to be 6 to the negative 1. They left it in that form. Again, this is just a practice test. All right, let's move on to number 3. And there are 16 practice questions in this video. For number 3, we have the cube root of 64. So let's write that down. What this tells us, or what this is asking is, what number can we find that multiplies it by itself 3 times to give you 64? Because again, if this would be the same as n cubed to the cube root, and this would cross out, just leaving you with n. So we're just looking for a number such that it multiplies it by, such that when you multiply it by itself 3 times, you get 64. And let's take a look at our most obvious answer choices. Again, 9 squared would be 81, 8 squared would be 64. So these are obviously wrong. 6 squared would be 36. 36 times 6 would be over 120. So that would be wrong. The only logical answer choice is B. But that said, let's work it out. 4 times 4 is 16. So again, we're looking for this number to be 64, so that we know what this is. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4, let's work that out. 6 times 4 is 24, carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So we can see that this one is in fact 4. All right, number 4. All right, for number 4, you have 2 times parentheses 5 minus the square root of 16 divided by 14 minus 2 in parentheses times 3. In order to do this one, you're going to have to be knowledgeable of the order of operations. That is, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. This order of operations tells you exactly what order you should work out this problem when it's jumbled up like this. So in case it's not obvious, P stands for parentheses, so you work on what's in parentheses first. E stands for exponents, which is what you work on next. Then you do multiplication and division from left to right. And similarly, you do addition and subtraction from left to right. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. We have 2 times 5 minus square root of 16 divided by parentheses 14 minus 12 times 3. Again, we're using the order of operations to guide our work in this case. Order of operations says look for what's in parentheses first and do that. In this case, we have 5 minus radical 16 and 14 minus 12. So let's go ahead and do those things first. Again, we're gonna simplify the square root of 16 to be 4. So this is going to be 5 minus 4 divided by, and let's go ahead and work this one out. 14 minus 12 is going to be 2 times 3. And again, now let's work this one out. I didn't want to skip that step where I simplified 16 to be the square root of 16 to be 4. So this is going to be 2 times 1 divided by 2 times 3. Okay, so we got rid of our parentheses. Now it says do exponents, and as we can see, there are none. Everything's raised to the first power. Multiplication and division from left to right. So we have multiplication right here, division right here, multiplication right here. Work it out from left to right. So the first thing you want to do is 2 times 1, which is just 2. And that's going to leave you with divided by 2 times 3. Okay, so we worked out that instance of multiplication. Again, we're still working from left to right. So again, up next is division. So this is 2 times 2, which is just 1. And we still have this times 3 hanging out there. So we did division. And again, we're still working out multiplication and division from left to right. Those are treated as equals, in other words. 1 times 3 is the last thing we have to do. And that is simply going to be, I don't know why my pen did that. It's been acting funny recently. 1 times 3 is just 3. So this one is 3. As you can tell, these problems are not that simple. I mean, they're a good test of your knowledge of some basic mathematics principles. All right, so let's move on to number 5. That is 7a plus 2 equals 3a minus 5 plus 2a. So I'm going to start by using this space I have here. This one shouldn't take too much work to do. We have 7a plus 2 equals 3a minus 5 plus 2a. This one says solve for a. So in other words, we're trying to get a by itself. We want a to look like this, a equal to something. As you can see, it's all jumbled up here. So let's start by combining like terms where possible. On this left-hand side of the equation, you have 7a plus 2. We can't combine those. Those are not like terms. On this right-hand side of the equation, we have 3a and 2a. So let's go ahead as our first step and combine those. 3a plus 2a is going to be 5a minus 5. All right, now we want to rearrange this equation such that we're getting all of our a's to one side of the equation and all of our whole numbers to the other side of the equation. So what I'm going to do as my next step is subtract 2 from both sides. This is going to cross out, leaving me with 7a equals 5a. Negative 5 minus 2 is going to be negative 7. All right, as our next step, let's subtract 5a from both sides. This is going to cross out, leaving you with 7a minus 5a, which is just 2a equals negative 7. All right, so again, we want to get a by itself just like this. So we're going to divide everything by 2. This leaves you with a equals negative 7 over 2, which unfortunately is not one of our answer choices. We know our answer is going to be negative, so we can cross out these positive numbers. That said, it's a good idea to remember how to convert fractions to mixed numbers. And there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do these mentally, or you can do them using long division. Again, all fractions can be regarded as long division. So you can write 7 over 2 as 7 divided by 2. And now we're just doing some long division. 7 goes into 2 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6. So we have a remainder of 1. What we do is, again, this is going to be negative, so we're taking care of that. What we do is we take this whole number, we place it right here. Then we take this remainder and we stick it over the number by which we were dividing, notably over 2. So this becomes negative 3 and 1/2, which is C. Okay, so that's how you convert a improper fraction to a mixed number using long division. And you may have to do that on test day. All right. I like working on this side because I'll have more room to work with. Let's go ahead and get rid of this stuff. All right, number 6 says solve for x. So this problem, in other words, is very similar to the one we just worked on. So this is going to be, let me do it on the line paper over here. We got 5 times 2x minus 1 equals 3 times 4x plus 3. All right, so again, we're using the order of operations to guide our work. That's, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which means we do parentheses first if possible, exponents next after there, multiplication and division from left to right, and addition and subtraction from left to right. If we look at our parentheses, we can see we have 2x minus 1, which we can't do. Those are not like terms. And we also have 4x plus 3, which are not like terms, so we can't do anything there. So there's nothing we can do with parentheses. As we can see, there's no exponents. But that said, we do have multiplication, notably here and here. So as my next step, and again, in light of the fact I don't know who's watching this video, I'm not going to skip any steps as I work out these problems. But again, we're going to take this 5 as our first step, distribute it to this 2x, and then distribute it to this negative 1. So this is going to become 5 times 2x, which is 10x, 5 times negative 1, which is negative 5. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. Notably, we're going to multiply this 3 to this 4x, as well as to this 3. 3 times 4x is 12x, and 3 times 3 is 9. All right. Now we're just solving for x, which means, again, we want to get x equal to something. Again, x by itself equal to something. So in order to do so, we're going to have to do some rearranging here. And I'm trying to think how this is going to be the easiest to do. Let's start by minusing or subtracting 9 from both sides. This is going to cross out, leaving you with 10x. 5 minus 9 is going to be negative 14 equals 12x. Then let's subtract 10x from both sides. This is going to cross out, leaving you with negative 14 equals 12x minus 10x is 2x. Again, we want to get x by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by 2 as our next step. This is going to cross out, leaving you with x. Negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. In math, it's customary to write the variable for which you've solved on the left, so this is going to be x equals negative 7, which is right there, B. All right, so that was that one. All right, number 7 says evaluate the expression x plus y cubed minus 5x plus 7y if x equals 0 and y equals negative 3. So to start, I'm going to copy down this equation over here, x plus y cubed minus 5x plus 7y. Again, sometimes you can get a problem wrong because you copied it down wrong. Always take the time to make sure you do that correctly. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to do is simply plug in my x, which is 0 in this case, in the equation, and then I'm going to plug in y in the equation, and we know that's 3. So let's go ahead and substitute those values in, and x is 0, so this is going to be 0, plus y, which is 3, Again, this is all cubed, minus 5, again, times x. X is 0, plus 7 times y. Y is 3. So now that we've substituted everything in, we can go ahead and use the order of operations to help us work our way through this one. According to the order of operations, we do what's in parentheses first. Exponents next, multiplication and division from left to right, addition and subtraction from left to right. In this case, we do have some things in parentheses we can work on, notably 0 plus 3. 0 plus 3 is just 3. So that one's easy enough to do. Let's just copy everything else down. Again, these aren't parentheses. Negative 5 times 0 is the same as negative 5 times 0. So it's not anything in parentheses. We've worked out parentheses. Now let's look at exponents. We do have exponents, 3 cubed. This is going to be the same as 3 cubed is the same as 3 times 3 times 3. 3 cubed, you should know, is 27. And again, we're just going to copy everything else down as is. All right, so now let's see what we have. We did exponents. There are none left in this equation. Now we're doing multiplication and division from left to right. We do have multiplication, 5 times 0 and 7 times 3. Let's work that out from left to right. So this is going to be 27. 5 times 0 is just 0, so this goes away. 7 times 3 is 21, so this becomes 27 plus 21. And 27 plus 21 is 48. Okay. As I said, you got to get comfortable doing the mental math. Again, 27 plus 21 would look like this. 7 plus 1 is 8. 2 plus 2 is 4, in case you needed it worked out. All right. Let's go ahead and make some room. Unfortunately, this worksheet didn't give us that much room to work with. And let me mark my answer there. A. Let's go back to the eraser. Get rid of this. And we'll get rid of this. And even though I made a video with this worksheet as one of the first videos I uploaded on YouTube, I think this one looks just the same in terms of how messy it is. So maybe it's just the worksheet. All right, so number 8 says solve for 3 plus 6x less than or equal to 3x minus 3. So let's work this one off to the side over here. We have 3 plus 6x is less than or equal to 3x minus 3. Now, I've already created a video as to how to deal with any type of inequality you'll ever see on the ASVAB. So if you struggle with what I'm about to do, take a look on my channel for a video called Inequalities. I forget what the specific title is, and you'll get more practice doing these. Let's go ahead and start working on this one. Again, you solve inequalities by treating them as if they're equations. So in this case, we want to get this inequality such that x is either going to be greater than or equal to something, or x than or less than or equal to something, which means we have to rearrange the x variable and the whole number in this case. So what I'm going to do as my first step is I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And again, I'm not going to skip any steps since I don't know who's watching this video. So this is going to become 3 minus 3, which crosses out, and that leaves you with 6x. It's less than or equal to 3x. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. All right, so we're almost there. Now we're going to get this x over with this x, which is its like term. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. This is going to cross out, and this is going to leave us with negative 6 on this side. And this becomes 6x minus 3x. 6x minus 3x is 3x. Now, in this video that I uploaded where I worked on this worksheet already, this is where I get a lot of questions, a lot of comments. Why didn't you flip the sign? You only flip this inequality sign if you multiply or divide across the inequality by a negative. I'm going to say that again. You only flip the direction of this inequality sign when you multiply or divide across the inequality sign by a negative. You can add and subtract all you want. So in this case, we're going to divide by 3 to get x by itself. Not going to flip the direction of the inequality sign because it's just positive 3, which is going to leave me with x is less than or equal to negative 6 over 3 is simply negative 2. So this one is x less than or equal to negative 2. All right, finally an easy one. Number 9 says, what is the name of a quadrilateral with 4 equal sides? We got a trapezoid, which looks like this. And in a trapezoid, only these 2 sides are equal. We have a pentagon, which has 5 sides. We have a parallelogram, which kind of looks like this, where only these sides and these sides are equal, so only 2 equal sides. Then we have a rhombus, which kind of looks like this. It's like a slanted square, and all the 4 sides are equal. So if you know a little bit about basic geometry, you'd be able to figure out that the only one, logically speaking, that's the right answer choice is rhombus. Okay, so that one's straightforward. Number 10 says a 55-degree angle is. Okay, so in terms of angles on the ASVAB, you do have to know a few things. You need to know, and let me start by trying to draw a straight line like this. All right, so this is a straight line. A straight line is 180 degrees. So to go from here to here is 180 degrees. And I don't know why my pen did that. All right. If I were to draw an angle right here, and I were to say that this was 30 degrees, that would be an acute angle. And the definition of acute is any angle that's less than 90 degrees. Okay. If you have an angle that is exactly 90 degrees, that's going to be a right angle. And if you have an angle that's greater than 90 degrees, and let me draw one for you. Let's say we had this angle. And let's say it was, to go from there to there, was 130 degrees. That would be a obtuse angle. In general, that's all you really need to know for the ASVAB. Straight lines are 180 degrees. Acute angles are less than 90 degrees. A 90-degree angle is a right angle, and an obtuse angle is greater than 90 degrees. In light of that, and that's a bad drawing, by the way. I kind of dropped the ball there, but we're doing this live, so a 55-degree angle. Again, that is less than 90 degrees, so we know it's going to be an acute angle. All right, so that's that one. An isosceles triangle has no equal sides, 2 equal sides, no acute angles, 2 obtuse angles. So isosceles simply means that you have a triangle in which 2 sides are equal. So is that one of the answer choices? No. No equal side, that's a scalene triangle. 2 equal angles. Well, these 2 angles are equal in a isosceles triangle. So it's going to be B. Has no acute angles. They're all acute if I'm not mistaken. 2 obtuse angles? No. Okay. Soon I'm going to upload a video in which I discuss everything about triangles. I'm in the process of creating those videos. All right, number 12 says the side of an equilateral triangle is 20 centimeters. Its perimeter is. So an equilateral triangle is one in which all the sides are equal. In other words, if this side is 20 centimeters, this side's also 20 centimeters, and this side is also 20 centimeters. To find the perimeter of any object, you simply add up all the sides. In this case, we have 3 sides that are equal, so that's going to be side plus side plus side. And as we know, one of the sides is 20, so they're all 20, so this is 20 plus 20 plus 20, 20 plus 20 plus 20, 20, 40, 60. So the perimeter of this equilateral triangle is 60 centimeters. And that's pretty much all there is to that one. All right, 13 says the area of a rectangle is 144 inches squared. If the length of the rectangle is 16 inches, what is its width? So I like to make little diagrams of what's going on, which helps guide my work. We're told that this rectangle has an area of 144 inches squared. If the length of the rectangle is 16 inches, so the length is this long part right here, what is its width? We want to solve for its width, or W. Again, we have to know that the area of a rectangle is found by multiplying its length times its width. In this case, we don't know what its width is, but we do know its area as well as its length. So let's plug those in accordingly. Again, area, as I noted down here and as the problem told us, is 144. Its length is 16, and its width is unknown. Again, we're going to solve for W by dividing both sides by 16. This is going to cross out, leaving you with 144 over 16 equals W. And again, in math, it's customary to write the variable for which you're solving on the left. So this is going to be W equals 144 divided by 16. And in this case, we have to figure out what 144 divided by 16 is. If you can't do the math mentally, here's what I'd recommend. Multiplying 16 by all these answer choices to see what it comes up with. I'm going to say, let's start with 9 to see if that gives us 144. 16 times 9. 9 times 6 is 54, so we write down a 4 and carry a 5. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 4 is 14. So we can see that this is, in fact, 9, which means that this width is 9. This one is C. All right, number 14 says the circumference of a circle is equal to 10 centimeters. Its radius is. So again, it's always helpful to make yourself a nice little diagram. There's no shame in doing that. We're told that circumference is equal to, and C stands for circumference, is equal to 10 pi centimeters. What is its radius? All right. So in light of that, we have to realize that there are 2 circumference formulas, and they're found by these. Circumference equals pi times diameter, and circumference equals 2 pi r. In light of the fact this wants us to find its radius, we're going to go with this second circumference formula. And more specifically, just like we did for area over here, we're just going to start plugging things in that we have and see what we can solve for. So in this case, let's see what we have. We know the circumference is 10 pi. So we're going to plug in 10 pi for the circumference. And we know that this is equal to 2 pi r. In light of that, we're just solving for r in this case, so we're just going to divide both sides by 2 pi. This is going to cross out, leaving you with 10 pi over 2 pi equals r. 10 pi divided by 2 pi is just going to be 5. Okay, so in math, it's customary to write the variable for which you solve on the left. R equals 5, C. If you wanted to check, you can simply plug this in right here. 2 pi times 5 is in fact 10 pi. So we know we got that one correct. All right, number 15 says, how much will it cost to paint a circular patio of radius 7 meters if the cost of the paint per square meter is $2. So to do this one, we first have to find the area of this circular patio. And to start, I'm going to try to diagram what's going on. And as we know, we're painting a circular patio that has a radius of 7. In order to find the area of a circle, there's only one formula, unlike finding the circumference, and that is going to be pi r squared, where pi, since you're doing all this math by hand, is going to be 3.14. So now it's just a matter of plugging things in as they are. Again, we know this 7 corresponds to the radius of this circle, so this is pi times 7 squared. Let's keep working this out. 7 squared is 49, so this becomes 49 pi. And now we got to apply this information, namely that pi is 3.14. So this is going to become 3.14 times 49. In order to do multiplication with a decimal and a whole number, you have to shift the decimal place such that you make the decimal a whole number. In this case, we're going to make 3.14 a whole number by shifting its decimal place 2 times to the right. At the end of this problem, we'll shift it back into the left. So this is going to be 3.14 times 49, albeit with 2 decimals to shift back into the left at the end. 4 times 9 is 36, so carry your 3. 9 times 1 is 9, 10, 11, 12, carry your 1. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 1 is 28. Add a 0 placeholder since you're starting this number. 4 times 4 is 16, carry your 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And 3 times 4 is 12. Let's add these up. 0 plus 6 is 6. 2 plus 6 is 8. 5 plus 8 is 13. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and 1 plus nothing is just 1. Shift our 2 decimals back into the left, 1, 2. So we can see the area of this circle, or this circular patio, is 153.86 meters squared. In light of the fact we know paint costs $2 per square meter, to figure out how much it's going to cost in total to paint this circular patio, we're going to do I'm starting to lose my mind toward the end of this test. We're going to do 153.86 times 2. Again, that's the area times the cost per square meter. So we have 153.86 square meters times $2 per square meter. And again, we're doing multiplication, albeit with a decimal and a whole number. In order to proceed, shift this decimal twice such that it makes 153.86 15,386 times 2, albeit with 2 decimals to shift back into the left. 6 times 2 is going to be 12, carry your 1. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1 is 17, carry your 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 5 times 2 is 10, carry your 1. 2 times 1 is 1, plus 1 is 3. Shift your 2 decimals back in, 1, 2. So we can see that this is going to be $307.72, which is A. Again, they rounded this, so they could have been helpful and told us to approximate it, but, you know, it is what it is. All right, let's make some room for this last problem. Number 16 says a rectangular box has a length of 7, a width of 3 feet, and a height of 2 feet. What is its volume? Again, to find the volume of a rectangular box, you simply do length times width times height. And that is a formula you probably should know if you don't know already. But that said, I'm going to make a video on this fairly soon. So let's go ahead and work on this. Again, we're going to do length, which is 7 feet, times width, which is 3 feet, and I'm starting to get sloppy toward the end of this video, times height, which is 2 feet. Let's work this out. 7 times 3 is 21, so this is 21 times 2. And in case you can't do this mentally, let's work it off to the side. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So this volume is 42 feet cubed, which they try to trick you with the squared there. Again, as you saw with the area of a circle, it was squared. Area always goes with squared. Cubed always goes with volume. Okay, so that's this one, and that is it for this practice test. I know I said this one was easy. That said, it did test your knowledge of a lot of different basic concepts, which can be overwhelming if you haven't done math in a long time. Again, one of my goals on my channel is to give you practice tests as well as cover each of these topics in enough depth for you to learn it without having to, take a course or anything like that. So if you struggled with anything in this video, bear in mind I'm going to have videos for all these topics by the end of July. So as I always like to say, you're more than welcome to subscribe to my channel if you like the content I'm creating. In addition, it's always nice when people leave some feedback in the comment section below. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. Konnichiwa.